wonderful way to start the moment together. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Staley, and I'm here with an incredibly great friend, Caleb.
Hello, everybody.
We are so glad to be kicking this off with you. We've been talking about this for a while, how to bring forward a dialogue of two very different stages of life. And we still find similarity in trying to figure out, how do we find purpose? How do we find joy? How do we figure out what we're supposed to be doing? So I'm so glad to be on this journey and this conversation with you today, Caleb.
I am too. Like you said, 3 or 4 months in the making. Me and Sarah. That's how long we've known each other. It's been. It's crazy when we pull that layer back, but I think that just speaks to how well we connect on levels like this. And once again, I'm really excited and thankful that you're allowing me this opportunity to kind of help produce and co-host the show.
I'm so delighted. Yeah, let's tell people a little bit about that. So one of your professors had invited me to be a mentor and to get involved with students at San Jose State University. And we were assigned to one another, and just automatically went well beyond mentorship into how not only can I help you figure out what it is that you want to do as you reach the end of your college life, but you were able to help me sort of further my ideas as it relates to having this program and this conversation too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were less than a month in, and I remember our first conversation was, "Oh, I want to get into podcasting," and so that stuck with you. And then I think, like once again, like a month in, you came to me and said, "Hey, I want to start something myself and kind of get my own brand going," and then you presented this vision of Workship and how you want people to really live that purpose-driven life, and that really stuck with me and resonated with me because, like, being in my last semester of college, we went through the internship thing and that whole process, and that was really, really cool to get brought onto your company. But yeah, I mean, as an individual at 22 years old, having basically my whole career ahead of me, you want to find something that you love to do, that gets you out of bed, and that isn't so much as work. So that's really been a passion of mine as I kind of stepped into college, was trying to find that space. And so once again, I thank you for kind of helping me along this journey as well.
Well, I thank you for helping me. I'm 20 years plus your senior, and my mother's 25 years plus mine, and she still says, I'm still not sure what I want to do with my life. And so I think that it's just fantastic that you can help me, I can help you, and hopefully everyone who comes on this show and listens from their car or while folding laundry or watching us will learn something and can share something about how did they figure out what they needed to do when, and how could they find happiness in that, both applying their talents in their work and sometimes actually supplementing their work in order to find joy and really bring their talents forward. Workship, let me just sort of talk about what that word means. Is I was sitting listening to a speaker one day, and I was really thinking about the fact that I felt called to have a conversation with people. I started out as a reporter, and I feel like I'm able to effectively take a story and translate that in a way quickly that other people can learn from it and make informed decisions. I also really love to work, and I love to work hard, and I love to figure out what it is that I'm good at in a way that brings joy, but also service to other people. And so I just think that there was something about that mixture of my talents and my interests in a way that I just felt, I don't know, that there was a conversation to be had about how do you figure it out? How do you learn from one another? How do you get out of your own way? Because a lot of times I think maybe nobody else is interested in this or having this conversation, or maybe they just all got it dialed in. And I just don't think that that's true. So workship by my definition, is figuring out how to live your purpose fueled life effectively and really take charge of it, but in a way that you give yourself permission to soar, to falter, to fail, um, and ask for help. So I'm just delighted to be a part of this conversation, and just kind of launch from this moment forward, with all of those who are listening, with you, Caleb. Um, even just for my own journey to know how to help myself and my kids and those around me, just figure out how to live the best life with the talents that I've been given.
So you mentioned you started as a reporter. Was that something that you thought at the time? So maybe coming out of college, like that was it for you, like that's what you wanted to do. um
Well, I had always felt like I wanted to do something with my life, which was giving back to others. I had grown up in a family which was very public service oriented. My parents were teachers, educators in government, in literacy, in the arts. We were surrounded by people who were in um, ministry, in roles that were also service oriented, and I just thought that that was actually how most people were wired. And I thought I actually wanted to be in public service or a politician. And then I actually started to really make note of the fact that it was the media who were most in control. That was my belief, that it was the media who were in most control of those sound bites of life that really are summarized into how do I make a decision based on 30, 60, or 90 seconds of information. And that seemed really powerful. I also love connecting with people and hearing their stories. And so that was just kind of a perfect recipe for me. But I found um, that authenticity or that purpose is not really what business is all about. Those rose-colored glasses came off quickly, and that was a hard lesson to learn. But I learned that it's not all about storytelling and doing the right thing. It's also about money. It's also about business and sustainability, and there's just a lot of reality. And there were some tough times for me in sort of growing up, if you will, realizing that it's not all about doing the right thing. It's actually about business. It's about money making and compromises. So, look, I think going from reporting to then into government and public service in that genre, I then went on to lead marketing and communications. Um, well, I actually stopped at Apple, worked at Apple for a while, then went on to lead marketing and communications at Stanford Children's Hospital, um, and have been spent the last probably 7 or so years back in tech, living here in Silicon Valley and focusing on um, workplace culture and workplace brand. So I've gone, from reporting to government to technology to healthcare and back into tech. And all along that journey, though, while it might seem that that's a very sort of um, altered road, what for me has remained my compass is that my skills have remained true. They've been honed based on where I've been working and what I've been needing to do in that moment. But it's really all been about, for me, storytelling and connecting with people so that they can make decisions about what's right for them. So I hope that this is in many ways full circle, that we're bringing all of those experiences forward in this conversation too.
right. You mentioned compromise. You have, like, is there any concrete examples of times where you felt like you compromised, whether it may be with your family or family career, how you balance that, but just kind of talk about specifically what some of those compromises have looked like for you.
Well, I think that that's something that everybody has to figure out. Let me be really clear. We're recording this first episode during the time of the coronavirus shelter in place mandate, that's hitting most people around the world. And the fact is that there's many compromises that we're needing to make right now, and many stark realities that we're having to face. And for many of us, that's perhaps facing the realities of unemployment, not knowing how we're going to pay our rent or provide for our families food and ongoing shelter. And I think that Caleb, life is full of compromise, some which are not what in a best case scenario we would do or make. And so we have to solve uniquely for what's right for us in that time, um, depending on depending on those truths, right? So let me just be really honest. I'm not trying to paint a picture that you should always follow your dreams, and just, flip off everything else around you that's a life reality, because that's irresponsible. And we all come at this differently. So I just want to be really clear on that. Because I do think that there's times where it's not so much about compromise, but it's really just about realities and what you have stepped into and what you need to solve for in that. That said, there was a time early in my career that was probably one of the most defining moments. I was a reporter, and I had done a story about this wonderful family. They owned a grocery store, and it was at the end of the news. There's often a soft piece. We used to call it the kicker story, something that kind of makes you feel good. And we had done a story about this family and their baby, and it was just this wonderful moment. And some weeks later, there had been an armed robbery, and the owner of that grocery store had been shot and killed. And I wanted to do a story about why that happens, and the brokenness that existed within the community that would allow such a thing to occur, or for a crime like that not to be responded to in a way that seemed apparent to many that it should have been. And I wasn't allowed to do the story in the way I wanted to cover it. I was asked to report on it differently. And I that was pretty much the end of that chapter of working for that news station for me. But it was also just a very important moment for me to realize that there were consequences in how you tell a story. There's consequences in how you tell a truth. There's consequences in how people are able to pay their advertising budgets in order to keep a station alive. And for me, that was just a really signature moment of learning that it's not always about doing the right thing. It's about doing, well, I'm sure other people thought it was the right thing. So yes, there are compromises that are made, and there's always a bigger picture that we're not always sure about. But my hope is that in this conversation, people will learn how to balance that, and learn from us and others who've been on this journey in order to figure out how to at least try to make the right decision for them at that time. What about you? Let me ask you, like, you're in your last semester of college at San Jose State. Like, what defined your journey, or figuring out what your major was going to be? And then even in the past time that we've been working together recently, how has that even shifted
Yeah,
in the last few months?
good question, because I got into San Jose State economics. Keep in mind, as a young kid, as a child, I was this sports fanatic, chase stats, numbers. That was my thing. Like, I really liked to sit, play Xbox, and like actually broadcast a game while I was playing Xbox. Like, that was a thing that I did from just an early young age. So I always had this gravitation towards sports and to news and kind of broadcasting in general. So when I got to San Jose State, I was like, economics really, I don't, I kind of took that major. It was like one class that I took in high school. I was like, I'll run with this. Like many of us coming out of high school, when you have an opportunity presented in front of you, a path saying, okay, you're going to go to college. For a lot of us, that's already kind of paved. And I really want to thank my parents and thank my older siblings for allowing, once again, kind of paving that way for me. So, but I got there, and my mindset was different. It wasn't, hey, let's screw around for 4 years, and then when those 4 years are over, let's try to find a job that makes me the most money. I thought I've been a lot more strategic in trying to find this workship as I've kind of navigated college. So quickly moved on from economics in my first semester and moved to radio, television, and film. Was really, really excited. one of my favorite broadcasters on ESPN at the time. That was his major. He was also in the same fraternity that I was in. So I was like, I'm going to pursue that. So did that, got involved with the radio station, did some broadcasting, basketball and football for San Jose State, which that was a great opportunity, opened my eyes. But there was never this sense of real fulfillment. And then I got, be honest, I got lazy with it, and I didn't really put all my eggs in one basket. Like maybe I should have for purposes as far as more practice, more application, because those were application type courses. You have to have so many hours logged at the radio station, blah, blah, blah. So was just feeling like that wasn't, and then once again, you touched on it. You have to, kind of hits you in the face that what jobs are out there for me? What career can I actually make out of this? What kind of money can I make out of this? So I pivoted. I wouldn't say I got scared, but I was like, all right, what's the next thing? And the radio, television, film thing kind of went hand in hand with journalism. And so I moved into the journalism department and did that for a year, reported for our on-campus magazine, was all set to do the paper and do our Spartan Daily, which we actually just got voted the #1 college newspaper in the United States. So shout out San Jose State for that. But I was all set to get involved in that, and honestly, I felt like I didn't have the time. I was working 4 days a week at the time, had 15 units, and then had to do 35 stories, and I was just got super overwhelmed, super discouraged. And so I was like, well, I don't want to break news. That's not my my super lane. I much rather storytell for the things I want to storytell about. Get really strategic with, hey, if I want to do a piece on so-and-so, I'll do that on my freelance, my own time. So that was something that said, well, I gained a lot of skill from reporting and doing stuff for a year. I felt, so I was like, let's keep that curiosity for chasing the story and apply it somewhere else. So that's when public relations kind of came to me, because all the prerequisites were the same. It was a very easy jump. It was in the same department, and I mean, the first class that I took, professor just kind of laid it out there, and I loved it. And then second class I took was the class that I actually met you through, with Renee Siegel. That class was really, really cool. It's practical experience in a world full of and how she structured her classes. Let's meet professionals here. If you need help with your resume, you need help building your LinkedIn, and just that, the way she presented her public PR class was okay, so she's providing a service. She has her own company, but she wants kids and students to succeed. And so I really just kind of fell in love with that, and was like, all right, I'm running in this direction of strategic comms and strategic marketing. But,
so where do you think, where's your head now?
So after this internship that I'm doing right now with our company, Realtor.com, and working directly under you, doing employer branding. To be honest, once again, I'm finding I'm at that next step to where it's, I don't know. To be honest, that's where I'm in the I don't know phase again. And so I'm happy to the point where I've got today, but now it's all right. So what's the next step? And maybe this podcast thing is part of it, but
I think that there's actually something really comforting in that, because I think that that's a truth related to, maybe my kids will join us, but I think that there's a truth related to the nature of this work in that, and that question, because I don't think that anyone really knows often what they're up against or what they're going to do. And I think right now in people's lives, where we are in this shelter in place, so many people losing their jobs. Um, a lot of people are thinking about, I don't know what it is that I want to do. Maybe I've lost my job. Maybe I've got a lot more time at home right now to think this through. And a lot of people have the same questions, not because they're at the end of their, senior year, but because they're just really trying to figure out, gosh, if life is this finite, am I really happy? And what is that? Sometimes we keep moving so quickly because we've got to pay the bills or because we've got all these responsibilities, and it's important to do that and take care of other people. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of us probably at home right now with a little bit more time saying, when I get out, I'm going to do this. Or how about I spend some time right now listening to a podcast like Workship to see what I can learn about how to solve for my journey in a way that I find a community that's going to support me. Or maybe right now I'm going to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn or any of these job sites in order to figure out what other people have done and learn from one another, and just put myself out there and apply. So what I'm hopeful is that, like you, like me, like the people we bring onto this show, people will feel a sense of, I'm not alone in this. I am here for a purpose. The nature of my work is probably going to take on different forms and shapes throughout my life. But perhaps somewhere on this conversation with you and me, with Workship, with the other people who are a part of this show, that one will come away from it saying, okay, I can do it. And I'm going to put my next foot forward. And then I'll put my next foot forward and realize that through the comments here, the community, or the conversation, somebody will just find enough motivation to just get unstuck and figure out what's next.
Right.
And
I also think there's something to be said about that uncomfortability and not knowing your next step, because I also feel that that's driving me to find that, that's the ambition that comes into play. And I don't think that's highlighted enough. And people are like, well, you need to feel secure and feel really safe. And you need to get to this certain level of complacency to where, I feel like that's almost just preached throughout everywhere, like without even it being super, super concrete. It's almost like this cognitive element of, well, you need to lock into a job for 5-10 years and never go away and go out of that industry. And so I think
you've come up, yeah, no, I hear you. I think you've also come up with another new word. In addition to Workship, it's uncomfortability, which is basically discomfort, but but it's Caleb's version of like, you're just not okay. Yeah, it's awkward. I love that. That's darling. But it's you're so right. It's like there is a discomfort that comes with it, but at the same time, if you were comfortable, then you would just be complacent and lazy, and well, that's not what this dialogue is going to be about. We're about trying to sort of push through that and find success in the uncomfortability.
so. That's not a word. That's not in the dictionary.
It's not a word. It's not in the word. It's not in the dictionary, but that's okay. We're on a journey together.
Well, Worship isn't either. So
I know. So we're even. We're even. That's exactly what I was saying. We're even. We're even. I hope people will join us, right? So, look, we're going to have some amazing people on this show, and we're whether it's a podcast or you're watching us on video, I hope that you will please send comments and questions, add them in the thread, follow us each on LinkedIn, and we're not in this for anything other than having a conversation that will help you on your commute or in your daily walk, or as you're processing things at home. At any point in your life, just try to figure out, okay, how do I do what's next? And just learn from one another. And we're going to have some great people on here, some who are well known, some who perhaps are lesser. But I assure you that in each of these conversations, we're really going to learn from one another. And there will be a moment where you will lift it up and take it with you, and we'll all be better for it.
I'm so excited.
Me too. All right, everybody. So continue to join us on Workship, and just be a part of this with us, because you have a purpose. We all have a purpose. There's purpose in everything that we do, and let's help one another through that.